Madam President, I want to acknowledge what Senator Blunt just said about the success of this Congress over the last 2 years. It's been remarkable. What they did on FAA is tremendous, and I enjoyed working with them on that. But I want to rise and talk a little bit about our veterans, about what we've done for our veterans, and about what we need to do for our veterans. But before I do, my state of Georgia has had a tough day and a tough night last night. The hurricane hit about 10 o'clock last night. Unfortunately, we lost one 11-year-old with a tree crashing through the roof. The governor's declared 108 of our 159 counties disaster areas. We have 1,500 National Guard troops deployed to help law enforcement, emergency medical, and hospitals to see to it we meet the needs of our people in our state. We have a lot of search and rescue going on. We were blessed that a lot of things didn't happen, but we were certainly hurt by those that did. So the families that have lost property and the families that need help, not only is our sympathy with them, but we're going to take them into action. GEMA and FEMA are working hard. The government deal is working extremely hard. We recovered a couple times already in the last 5 years from hurricanes, and we'll do it again. But on behalf of myself and Senator Perdue and the United States Senate, I want to send our best wishes to our people back in Georgia, and also to our people in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida. Florida was hit worse last night, but now the storm has left past Atlanta and it's going over South Carolina and then North Carolina, who just came back from the worst storm in almost history. We had 48 inches of rainfall in one county. I couldn't believe that amount of water fell in a day, but it did. And they are recovering and doing it nicely. They've done a good job with it. But all of us know these acts of nature and acts of God. We have got to do everything we can to protect our citizens, keep them safe. And I urge all of our citizens in Georgia and every state in the union to pay close attention to what their federal emergency management people say when they tell them. If they tell them to evacuate, they should. They tell them to hunker down, they should, but do whatever they do to follow the rules as best they can, because everybody that we have to rescue takes a law enforcement officer and a medical person out of play to help somebody else that could have been helped, and we want to do that. As chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, I have the honor of representing the United States Senate to our veterans and responding along with the House Committee, chaired by Chairman Rowe of Tennessee, on veterans issues. All of us are for veterans. You know, there's one place you never have an argument on appropriations, that's for veterans. We don't have partisan arguments about veterans either. You know, you don't see veterans on the battlefield. You don't see Democratic veterans and Republican veterans. You see American veterans. We're all for the veterans. We've had some great successes with our veterans, but we've had some failures over the last decades. Sometimes they're on the front page of the newspaper, as most recently last week when the hospital ratings came out. And 2 of the 3 hospitals servicing my state fell from a 3-star to a 1-star, which meant they fell in their performance to our veterans, and we want to work and see that that's improved. But we also want to let everybody understand how big the problem is, what we've done the last 2 years to address the problem, and what's coming soon for all of us, which I think is good news for everybody. First of all, starting 2 years ago, Senator Tester, who's the ranking member on the committee, and myself sat down and made a pledge that we want to work together from the beginning to address the tough issues that had been put behind the back door for a long time, hadn't been dealt with. And we've done that. In fact, we've tackled every single one of them except one which we're going to tackle in a couple of weeks. And in so doing, we've helped our veterans. And we had the help of the president as well. President Trump embraced our committee's work from the beginning. We had to find a new secretary because the old secretary resigned. He worked hard to do that. We had a few bumps in the road. We got that done. The president's given us his full support. Robert Wilkie, who's the new secretary of the VA, is a terrific guy, family history in the military, loves the VA, and worked for DOD, Department of Defense, which is the precursor to working for VA if you're a veteran, because you've got to be in DOD first to be a veteran second. In fact, Robert Wilkie is a godsend for us, and he's already in a few short weeks proven a big help for our veterans. He's not unwilling to tackle the hard problems. In fact, he's willing to tackle them. Interoperative software for medical information has been a problem at the VA for years. The DOD and VA our software didn't talk to each other. We'd have a guy leave the battlefield in Afghanistan, come back to Georgia, go to Fort Benning, decide to leave the military and retire and go into veteran status. We couldn't even get his records transferred from the active duty to veteran status because we didn't have interoperable software. We didn't have a way to do it. Well, this committee has worked hard. We developed the largest contract in history with Cerner, a great software company. Cerner has got a tremendous medical IT product, and they're now installing that, and hopefully over the next 15 years we'll have an interoperative system around the world that services our veterans who need medical service and has their records available instantaneously and immediately. We have a 20th century soldier on the battlefield, but we have a 15th century VA when it comes to information technology. And we've invested the money now with Cerner to put in the system, and we're going to get it done. And I'm going to stay on their back every day to see to it that we do. And I appreciate the cooperation of the employees at the VA, and I tell them as I make these remarks, we're going to see to it they have every bit of backing they can get from us. We've had too many vacant spaces in the VA. We had too many acting this and acting that. I hate it when we appoint acting directors and acting bankers and acting soldiers. We don't need them to act, we need them to take action. We're going to start doing that and see to we fund the places that go vacant where it hurts our veterans. But I thank President Trump and Secretary Wilkie for their work and their support. It's been complete and seamless. When we signed the VA Mission Act in the Rose Garden a couple of weeks ago, the President came out and talked about his pride in the VA and what the veterans did for all of us and what he was going to do as President as long as he was there to see to it he gave him at least the best of all of us, like they've given us the best of the veterans. President Trump has been a great leader for our VA, understands the problems, and has been supportive of us trying to make the changes we want to make. And Senator Tester has been a great ranking member and a great partner with me on those things and made sure that everything we did was bipartisan. I'll be honest with you, we passed 22 pieces of legislation and made 14 appointments. We had one no vote on one bill. So we had complete unanimity on the committee, Democrats and Republicans, all the way through because we worked together, we set our goals, and we decided to make us work as seamlessly as our military works for us. Let me talk about a few of those things that we've done because I think they're impressive when you look at them. We passed 22 pieces of legislation that include the VA Mission Act, most recently passed about a month ago. We redefined the mission and the actions of the VA to see that it does everything it needs to do to be a 20th century benefit program, like the new modern day GI Bill, which is a part of that. The new GI Bill says the old rule in the VA that you have to use your VA benefits within 15 years or you lose them on education is gone. We all know that skills are changing about every 5 years and 6 years, and if a veteran doesn't, or a person, a job doesn't keep up with their continuing education, they're going to lose their job. But they lose their benefits because they've been in the VA 15 years. Well, that's ridiculous. So we moved that cap, so now they can take new courses and new training with their VA GI benefits for 25 years if they want to, if they're still eligible. No, we're not putting any time limit on it because there's no time limit on education. Education is the necessity product we have to produce the military of the 21st century. You know, it used to be we drafted our soldiers. You can't really draft your soldiers anymore. The average draftee can't operate the type of equipment that our men and women operate in the battlefield. You've got to have people that understand technology, understand the STEM subjects, are good with video games are one of the biggest qualifications now for pilots because all our airplanes are video games. It looks like Pac-Man when you get in the cockpit. But it's because of high technology, and we have to train them for that. They'll just learn that when they come out of school. So we can't draft the kind of people we need. We have to have an attractive job for them, attractive VA benefits for them, to see they want to come to work for the United States of America and stay with us, or else we'll never be able to keep the military that we have today as strong and powerful as it is. We also put a new law in on accountability, and I want to tell you this. I served in the National Guard, and I understand accountability, and in the military, you really understand accountability. You don't ask questions in the military. You give answers. If your drill sergeant tells you to do 20, you drop and you do 20. If you can't do 20, you practice until you can, and you get it right. Well, that's what we got to do in the military, because you don't fight wars with people who say, well, I'm not interested today, I'm not going to fight. You got to take orders, you got to know what you're doing, you got to do it right. We have to do the same thing in providing services to those veterans once they leave. We don't just be casual about it. We need to be committed about it and make sure that we're doing everything we can to see to our veterans get the services they want, the services they need, and the information they need. You know, Veterans Day is coming up in about 4 weeks. Every Veterans Day, we're usually here. I don't think we're going to be here on Veterans Day this year, if I understand the calendar right. So I'll be making speeches back home, but every year I've been here, I make a speech on this floor about our veterans and how important they are to us. And try and point out a few people I've known in my lifetime who were veterans of the United States military who made a difference in my life. I've talked about my friend Jack Cox, a captain of the United States Marine Corps. He was killed by a sniper in Vietnam back in 1968. My best friend. He volunteered. He came to the fraternity house. He was 2 years older than me, so he was still in school when he got out and graduated. He graduated, he went from the University of Georgia to the Marine Recruiting Office and signed up for OCS. Went to Parris Island, from there went to Vietnam, and on the 12th month of his 13-month assignment was unfortunately killed by a sniper in Vietnam. But he went to Vietnam because he wanted to represent his country, fight for his country, and pay his price and do his due diligence. Jack was a great man. I got a bracelet on right here, two of them as a matter of fact. One of them is a prayer bracelet for Matt Cooper, a law enforcement officer in Georgia who was killed a couple of weeks ago. But the other is for John McCain. John McCain, a former member of this body who just a few weeks ago was buried at the Naval Academy and at the National Cathedral for his funeral. A pilot in the Vietnam War who was captured, held captive by the North Vietnamese for 6 years, got out badly wounded, badly injured, badly hurt, came back to the military, rehabilitated himself, went into VA health care, and they rehabilitated him from his broken arms, his broken back, and all the other problems that he had. Ran for the United States Senate, came to the United States Senate, and was a star, as you know, in this Senate chamber from the day he got in the Senate to the day he died. He had a pervasive commitment to his country. He was exactly for our country what I want all of us in the Senate to be for this body. Committed to the job, committed to the task, always ready, always prepared. The Marines are that way, the Army is that way, the Air Force is that way, the Senate ought to be that way. And we're committed that way to our veterans and what we do today. We also have to hold them accountable in the military. Accountability is important, and veterans want us to hold the VA accountable. That's why we put in the accountability bill, which, among other things, allows us to fire senior executives in the VA for not doing their job. And you can't do that in many government jobs. In fact, a lot of people were surprised we were able to pass it, and it passed bipartisan. Passed bipartisan because everybody really knew that if your job wasn't subject to you doing your job, you really didn't have accountability. The first person taken to court for violating the law by not doing their job was in Georgia at the Augusta VA. And I saw to it, we prosecuted that case and used our lawyers to do so, because I wanted the people in the VA to know that we're not going to take bad behavior, break the law behavior, or bad attitudes in the VA. We're only going to give the best to our veterans. We have a number of Title 38 veterans leaders who've been suspended, moved, or otherwise fired because they weren't accountable for their job. We've got some openings now that need to be filled because we made them openings because we got rid of them. But we got rid of people who weren't doing the job to put in people that did the job. Because in the military, your accountability is doing the job and no excuses if you don't. We've done a lot of other things to help our veterans and to help our country, and I commit we will continue to do so to make sure that this Congress is as helpful and beneficial as we can. Three quick things I want to talk about, too. I want to thank the private sector and its support of our veterans. Morehouse Medical School in Atlanta, Georgia, is helping the Atlanta VA now with our doctor shortage in the VA. Yes, we've got a doctor shortage. We need the docs to do the job. Some of these waiting times that you've heard from a lot of our veterans are not because we're making them wait because we're slow. We're making them wait because we don't have enough doctors. So we're working joint ventures with medical schools to do so. Our residency, 72% of the doctors in the United States of America did a residency or an internship at the Veterans Administration. It's the key training center of all our docs, and we've got to expand that and make that better and continue to improve it. On the appeals process for benefits, we've had people having to wait 2 and 3 years to get a benefit. We got one veteran whose appeal has been on appeal for 25 years because you can keep it on appeal as long as you file new information every year, and he's found a way to file the new information for every year. And for 25 years, he's putting something new in his file. And he's blocking other veterans who need to get their attention, to get their service, because he's making the line longer than it should be. So we put in accountability on the Veterans Administration as well to see to it our benefits are handled quickly, expeditiously, the appeals are fair, and veterans can get an answer. We're cutting the average time to wait. It's at a year and a half now. We're going to get down below a half a year pretty soon. And pretty soon we're going to have it as instantaneous as you can make it. Because you shouldn't have to wait to have a benefit paid if you never could wait to complete an order from your presiding officers or your officer that you work for. And I want to thank Shepherd Spinal Center in Atlanta, Georgia. That's my hometown and my home state. But Shepherd takes the most seriously injured veterans in the United States that we no longer can help because we don't have the expertise. They take them and they help them. And more often than not, they turn their life around and make it where they can communicate, where they can work, where they can do their job. In other words, the veterans are getting the best of care and the best of attention. Veterans Administration, the Veterans Committee of Veterans Affairs in the Senate is giving them 100% of their attention from us. I'm proud of what we've done, proud of what the Senate's done. I'm proud of our military, and I'm proud of our country. And I hope we continue to do in this Senate what we've always done, that's do our job, do it well, support our country. May God bless the United States of America. And I yield back.